what I see? Fuck, I can't. What am I gonna say? Oh, shit. I don't know what I'm gonna say.
Huh? Are we live? Are we live? Are you hearing? Hello out there in Guitar World land. Brad Talinsky here with
I'm
Mr. Paul Riario from Guitar World, the legendary Paul Riario.
I don't know. I'm not as legendary as Mr. Brad Talinsky.
Well, anyways, we're here at the Nashville NAMM show, and where they show all the new instruments and all the latest gear and all the cool stuff. And Paul, as being the gear expert at Guitar World, what have you seen at the show that you thought was cool?
Well, I mean, every time I will say this, every time I get this question asked to me, I kind of lock up and I freeze. My brain freezes and I can't figure out what I just what I just had seen, and I'm like, I don't remember anything. So it's like, what was cool? I was like, I don't know, I have no idea, because it's all guitars and stuff to me. But
let me refresh your memory.
But
I mean, I saw, for example, Roland or Boss is reissuing those pedals. Those seem cool.
Yeah, no, the new Boss pedals that are being reissued are really great. The only thing is that it's the price is way up there. But man, I would love to have them, because I actually probably own one of them, an original as well. But when you consider the prices that they're fetching in the vintage market, you're having 3 brand new pedals that sound just as great as the original. But speaking of Boss, when I was there, I did see, one thing I saw was their brand new, I think it's the MS3 multi-switching, where you can plug in, loop in 3 of your favorite effects, and it's got built-in effects that is from their main Boss GT1, I believe. That's awesome. That'll shrink my pedal board size. It looks like just a great functional unit. That and with the rugged Boss quality, it's gonna be great.
And you're down with the Boss pedal board sounds.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends. With Boss, I find a lot of players they like to pick and choose what are their favorite pedals, and some may like more of the modulation and time-based effects on the Boss side, or maybe some of their drive pedals as well. You have all of that in there already, so no matter what you choose, it's there. But you want your own little distortion, you can loop that in and then use the modulation and time-based effects off that particular unit, which is
Anything
great.
going on at? We might as well just cover the biggies before we move on to speak with the people at D'Addario.
Yes.
But how about Marshall and Fender? Anything going on in those worlds?
Well, Fender came out with they came out some new colors in some of their main lines in their Elite series and the American Professional. But they launched a bunch of brand new signature instruments, which are just kick-ass. The George Harrison Rosewood Telecaster.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Which is really great, and not to mention that if you ever played an original Rosewood Telecaster, they're heavy. They're extremely heavy. What they did is they chambered it, so if you actually pick it up, you're like, wow, this is manageable. So it's a striking, really striking looking guitar. And then there's also one of my favorites, the Brad Paisley signature Tele that's out. Okay.
Okay. Well, let's hear a little bit, just a little more about Fender, and then we'll move on.
Okay. And of course, last but not least, there's an Ed O'Brien from Radiohead Stratocaster, which is
cool.
Awesome. Yeah. Right,
okay. Next, we're going to bring on the gentleman from D'Addario. Paul's going to talk with them about some of their new products and this really cool new initiative that they have regarding recycling guitar strings, if you ever wondered what to do with their guitar strings. So let me bring the guys on.
Good afternoon. All right. You want me to take your seat? Hello, Paul.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you? Yeah.
Oh, so I'm doing what? So, are we going to hand off? It's a handoff?
Yeah, we'll do a handoff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
We sent out an email today through the Guitar World mailing list on this product as well. That just went out today, so it's good timing.
I had seen the press release earlier about that. I was just like, wow, that was funny. Yes.
Awesome. It's like a commercial break. We'll be back right after these messages from our sponsor.
When did you guys get here?
I got here late last night, but the rest of the guys have been here a couple days already. So you're doing this for the whole show or just today?
No, I mean, you're my first.
Oh, awesome. All right.
Yes.
So let's make it up as we go along, shall we?
Yes, it's going to probably be that way. But no, it's just funny because they literally like, hey, okay. Hey, it's Paul from Guitar World, and I'm here with Chris Griffiths from Diodario, and he's going to tell us about the brand new pedal tuner, which they just released. Yeah, go right ahead.
Absolutely.
Let me know.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Paul. And hello from Summer NAMM 2017, everybody. So yeah, Diodario is very excited here at the Summer NAMM show to launch our brand new chromatic pedal tuner. It's a half-size pedal format, so basically it's taking up half the width of a typical pedal on your pedal board. And as everybody is aware, space on a pedal board comes at a premium, but you do need to tune your instrument. You need to do so quickly and accurately, and so that's why we came out with the CT20 pedal tuner. So as you can see from the image on the front of the box here, it is a full color, basically LED chromatic tuner. It is the face of the tuner is slanted towards the player, and as you can see, we've dedicated as much of the space of the top of the tuner to the display as possible to make sure that it's easy for musicians to read while it's on the floor. So you could use it on a pedal board or on the floor. It comes with a pre-die cut Velcro patch or a rubber patch, depending on how you want to execute it.
Oh, so that's great. So it already comes with the Velcro, so you don't need to cut.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
So it's
That's
already die cut to fit the form factor perfectly. You can power it with a 9-volt battery, which is included, or a 9-volt adapter, whatever your preference is. You can fully calibrate it as well, and of course saves the calibration in memory as needed. Simple on-off switch, true bypass, of course, which is recognized in the industry as quite the necessity for most people. And the street price on this product is $69.99, so even though we've packed it with lots of features and a beautiful form factor, it's extremely reasonably priced.
Wow.
The last feature I really want to bring to your attention, Paul, is the fact that we power this tuner with a 32-bit chip. So a computer processor on the inside is a 32-bit chip, and most people don't really think about how powerful the processor is in their tuner, but that's about 4 times more powerful than a typical tuner processor. And the reason why we've invested in that higher power processor is for speed. So every tuner will eventually, within some range of accuracy, get your guitar in tune. But really what we were going for here is super fast note recognition, so you can actually play a scale live, and this tuner will track every note in your scale. So that really allows the professional musician to get in tune quicker and more reliably.
Yeah, it's funny because I always, for some tuners that I've used, it's interesting. Like sometimes when you hit the note, it just seems like it takes forever. Even though it's a second, it seems like forever. Like those seconds count. So that's a 32-bit.
Exactly, and what people don't realize is that no matter what kind of tuner you have, the reason that latency you're talking about takes place is because the computer is listening. It needs to listen to the note long enough to try and distinguish the difference between the fundamental note and the harmonics, because the tuner can hear both those things at the same time. So the more powerful your processor, the faster the computer is able to say, okay, which is the fundamental, which is the harmonic, and then display that fundamental and allow you to adjust accordingly.
Now the LED, the lights now, can that be seen in the daytime as well?
That's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up, because I was supposed to mention that. So yeah, so the reason why we wanted to go with individual LEDs for all these segments is because you can use it outdoors in direct sunlight and not have any washout. Yeah. And so that was a major complaint of some of our competitors' products, so that's something we really wanted to address with this tuner.
And I'm just looking at the face of it. So I'm assuming if you're below the note, if you're flat, it's going to read up from up, and if you're sharp, it's going to read up until it gets to the green, right?
It's a vertical display, which actually is unique in the industry, even though it's way more intuitive. So a lot of times with many tuners, flat, your segments are to the left of the note name, and sharp, you're to the right. We've basically gone up and down because it makes more sense with the form factor for starters, and it's also way more intuitive.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Great.
So that's our new pedal tuner, and these are shipping now, so they should be available online and in stores at your favorite music retailer.
Wonderful. Well, it might make its way onto my board as well.
Awesome. We'd love your continued support. Thank you very much, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for your time. Absolutely.
And now we're going to bring on.
I'm going to introduce you to Brian Vance, who's going to tell you all about Diodario's amazing string recycling program. Yeah. Brian.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Yes.
Hey, Paul.
Hi, Brian.
What's going on?
So I have my second guest here from Diodario, of course, is Brian Vance, who I've known for a very long time. And today we're going to be talking about Diodario's very new and revolutionary string recycling program, correct?
Yes, Paul, thanks.
So,
it's called Playback. So first of all, in case anybody doesn't know this, when you put your used strings in your if you throw them in the waste, or even if you put them in your recycling bin, they end up going into landfill because there's really not enough string waste out there to warrant the recycling facilities to process the metals. So Diodario pursued, we've got a history of environmental responsibility, and we thought it was an important initiative to find a way to collectively get the entire industry and as many guitar players as we can to collectively send their strings in, and then we take on the costs of getting the strings alloys recycled. So it's a very simple program. It's free for anybody to join. You can Diodario.com. It's on our homepage of our website, or Diodario.com/playback if you want to get right to the page. Sign up for the program. It's free. You save up your strings. You put them in a box. You download a free UPS shipping label. Anybody who's used to doing returns online and that kind of stuff, it's a very similar process. Put the strings in a box, ship them to us, ship them to the recycling center, and then you also get credit through our Player Circle loyalty program, and you can collect points if you recycle, just like if you bought product, but you also get points for recycling, and then you can get free product as well.
So that would be the incentive for guitar players to,
sure.
Or bass,
I mean, obviously,
we
hope the incentive is people want to do the right thing, and we're all trying to help here, but there's a reward for you for doing it as well.
Yeah.
You can also go to that same website and look on a map. We have over 400 retail locations in the U.S. where you can actually take your strings into a store and drop them off there if you want to do it that way as well.
Great. You know what's interesting too, and I think we talked about this just before, is I found it so really amazing that a company like Diodario is actually spending money. It costs you money to do this, which most companies are, basically are cutting back, and you're doing something just because it's the right thing to do and it's green. And I think if more people are on board, as you say, it's going to be
Well, it's one of those things to just please join and tell all your friends. We're hoping to get the word out. It's been very, very organic process. We've been doing it for about a year and a half. We've recycled over 600,000 strings already. Our goal for the end of this year is to hit 700,000, so we could use everybody's help in doing that and just keep the momentum going.
Yeah, what's also interesting is I had read, and it was interesting, is that the Edge's U2's Edge is exactly doing that on this tour.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. We actually have gotten involved with a lot of artist tours where we actually have these recycling bins on the road. We've taken them to festivals, but right now the U2 tour is taking the recycling bins with them on the road, and all the strings that come off all the instruments are getting collected, and those strings will get recycled, and then we're gonna find some kind of charitable contribution, some charitable donation to come from that as well. So stay tuned for that, but that's definitely an official program with U2.
Where do you see it going from here? Do you have any other bigger plans as far as this goes?
Well, we would like to get more involved on the artist and education side. So, we're trying to get the string recycling bins in rehearsal facilities and in schools where there's lots of collection of musicians. Ultimately, though, if we looked really far down the road, our goal really would be to get the recycling industry to have enough momentum with string alloys that the recycling industry will start paying attention and we don't have to do this anymore. I mean, that's a lofty goal, but it's something that the company's committed to supporting, and we're just getting going. I appreciate this is a great opportunity. Thank you guys for even bringing this up, because we don't really, it costs us money. We don't have a big budget for this, so it needs to come through word of mouth.
But I just personally, I think it's fascinating that a company is taking the lead on this, which is really great.
Awesome.
And just a side note, I'm just wondering how many strings have you actually collected so far? Is it it's a big, well, it equates to, we do it by pounds, and then we sort of equate pounds to number of string sets, so it's over 600,000 strings.
I don't know how much space that is. I'll get to see it very soon, because we're actually going to, once we hit our 700,000 mark, we're going to have a big event where we actually take all the strings and we watch them get smelted and recycled. So maybe we could, get some pictures and get
maybe we get like a video where we can document all this big balls of used strings to see the mass
what it looks like.
Steel.
Yeah. And steel and copper and all kinds of strings, classical strings, even orchestral strings. We'll take those as well.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, great.
All right.
Well, thank you very much for coming, and
All right, Paul,
and
thanks.
thanks for the story here.
All right, man.
And,
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
All right. Have a good show.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for stepping in for us to do that interview with
My
Diodario.
pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah.
I'm going to take the microphone off your hands. We're going to bring out our next guest,
Well, thank you for
Paul
having me.
Childers. Paul, do you want to come on up?
Thank you.
I need you to sit in this chair here. Because that's where the money shot is in that chair.
Camera one, camera two. Camera one, camera two.
Camera one, camera two. So anyways, everybody out there in guitar world, this is Mr. Paul Childers. I've had we've had discussions in the past.
Many.
Great guitar player.
Thank you.
Great pop songwriter. Sort of combination of both. Paul, why don't you tell me about this new record that you have?
Yeah, well, actually, the last time we spoke was the day the pledge campaign started for Naked Poetry. And since then, we've put it out. We hit number 27 in the world on pop charts for Billboard. We hit number 22 on R&B and the independent charts. It was fantastic to be able to, from the source of just, a groundswell of fans and utilizing what I think is the future of selling records to maybe as a test. Naked Poetry was a test for that. So we put out Naked Poetry, and now we're touring it, and it's been absolutely incredible.
I mean, I think this is really sort of an important thing for, all you musicians out there to understand. Like, Paul's like, I don't need your record deal. I can go figure this thing out on my own. So how did you? What was the evolution of that? How did you decide to go ahead and do it as a?
Someone told
crowdfunding?
me once, they're like, a record label is just a bank. And banks have generally been pretty scary from my perspective. And so that there was like, you know what? If I can, instead of getting a loan, they give you money to make the record. And instead why not ask a fan? And then they ask their friend, and then you ask another fan, and you ask your family. And it's like all of a sudden people want to hear your thing. And I find that makes them more interested when it comes out because they're along for the journey. You get to update them as you go, and I don't know. Watching the clock can, it keeps ticking down to 100% or to time's up and it's time for the record. I like being held responsible, and you can't shelve yourself. So if you're gonna make a record and you're gonna tell people you're putting it out independently, they're gonna expect it.
Now, what's for those of you who should go out and check out the record. What's it called again?
Naked Poetry.
Naked Poetry.
Yeah.
So, Paul was telling me he sort of sees the record as being combination of like D'Angelo, the R&B singer,
Yeah.
plus Stevie Ray Vaughan. So it's like you get a little bit of everything, like
Yeah.
really cool soul, like make out music and shit.
Yeah,
But
let me
then
be 2017's makeout record. But yeah, it's a melange of again Stevie Ray Vaughan and some Hendrix and D'Angelo and Dave Matthews, Sting. As a songwriter, I love writing songs that mean something or go beyond I love you, you love me.
Yeah.
Barney took care of that one for me.
But even if you go and listen to the record, say, well, these songs are cool, but I wanted to hear more guitar playing. I guess the thing is Paul, live, you say you sort of stretch out a little bit.
Yeah, I
more.
really like to flex live. I mean, you have to think about, do I want to shred on an album and have someone listen to it once and think, wow, he's really talented? Or do I want to make a great song that they play over and over? You just forget it's in your car. It just keeps on repeat. So I think I went for the hook rather than,
Well, we were talking about this even like on Hendrix's second record, Axis, which is filled with great guitar playing, but it's more about the songs, and the soloing is sort of kept down to the minimum. Like
Exactly.
Jimmy in that period sort of saved it up for the live shows.
And it's all about subtlety. Like, the things he's playing are very difficult and very chordal.
Yeah.
You listen to Castles Made of Sand, like, that lick will stick with me forever. And so it's not that it's if you're shredding and you're tapping, that's, like, overtly impressive. But to me, finding a pocket, and that goes back to the Questlove, the Roy Hargrove, how do I make this feel good consistently, from song 1 to song 13.
So you're going to be touring.
All over the country. We're going to be all over the country.
You have the van, it's all set up?
Yeah, I wish it was. I'll make people pretend it's like a 15-passenger, but it is a minivan. There is no question. We go out as a trio, and it holds everything we need.
You don't have to pretend nothing, man. We want to feel your pain. We want to believe in those bent notes.
Yeah.
And the only way
man.
to get that is by sniffing some other dude's old
Oh
feet
God, the
in a van.
smells. And I know this is not. You didn't expect this interview to go there, but touring is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
No question. Or the faint of nose, because it's 3 dudes. I'm the merch guy. I'm the driver.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that wakes them up in the morning, and they're the guys that keep me in line. So
guys, definitely, if you see Paul's name in your, you should. Oh yeah, I should ask you really quick. So you've been walking around. Then have you had a chance to look around
Are you
the NAMM
kidding
show?
me? It's been absolutely incredible.
Have you seen anything cool?
Yes, Whitfield Custom Guitars gets my vote for best booth. I just think what Charles Whitfield's doing over there is incredible. And then, Taylor's got their section up there, which is more of a, you can actually hear what you're doing. It is a cacophony. There's no question about, being able to.
You could hear the din.
Yeah, and again, exactly.
Right
And I love watching drummers really lay in, and the far section, the drum section is also such a great place for me too.
Okay, well, man, thanks for stopping
What
by.
a pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Everybody out there, man, go see Paul play when he comes into town.
Absolutely, and you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Facebook, anywhere you find music or you want to listen, you can find us. Paul Childers, Naked Poetry.
Okay, great.
Brother.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Cheers. Next up, hey, Dave. Next up, we have Mr. David Starr with us.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great. Doing great.
You loving the show so far?
Yeah, it's great. I haven't been to a NAMM show in years.
You haven't been in years? How
I have a
come?
guitar store. Well, because last time I went to a NAMM show was in January of 2008. As a guitar store owner, I loaded up on stuff, and then we had a recession.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. Things are better now.
But you got a new record coming out.
I do. It came out at the end of March, actually.
The head and the heart.
Yes.
You need to have both.
Produced by John Oates.
And probably some feet too. But
Some feet are good. You need your head, your feet, your heart, the whole thing.
yeah. Now, it's pretty cool that you got John Oates to produce this thing of Hall & Oates. I actually had a lengthy conversation with John about a month ago in New York City.
Yeah. John's an awesome guy.
About his book.
Right.
So how did that come together? How did you
John
end
and
up
I,
working with John?
I live in Western Colorado. John lives in Aspen part-time, although he's selling his place up there to live here full-time. But we've played together some, new mutual friends and guys that played with him. And so along the way, last fall, I just said, I'd love it if you'd help me on this new album. First, it was produce a couple of tracks. He said, let's just talk about doing an EP together, So he produced the whole thing, suggested one of the tracks, helped me arrange some things. Turned out really good. Really lucky to work with him.
The thing is John has always been sort of almost in the background. His guitar playing's almost been a bit in the background in Hall & Oates.
But he's an amazing
guitar player.
guitar player.
Is a hell of a guitar player.
His chord vocabulary is far beyond anything I'll ever have, because I'm a recovering drummer. So but there's a version he suggested that we do California Dreamin' by the Mamas and Papas.
Nice.
There's a version of that on there that is so him. There's so many chords in that song. I said, John, where's the 5 chord? And he said, well, there are 3 of them. So I do a version of it in my live set when I play by myself, but it's not the same arrangement. It's so cool. And I talked to him a little while ago on the phone, told him we were going to do the show. So
we're talking with David Starr and his album, The Head and the Heart. And could you? I have not had a chance to listen to the record yet.
Well,
but could you tell us a little bit about it and sort of where you're coming from musically?
I think it falls into the Americana genre. A lot of things do, but I grew up in a period of time as a musician and a singer and songwriter. Early 70s, all the Southern California stuff, the Eagles, Poco, J.D. Souther, all that stuff. So that's my singing influences, that's my writing influences. And the album's got a little bit of steel guitar on it just to give it that Nashville thing, but it's an Americana record. And what John brought to it in a lot of ways was putting the best band he could find in the room and let them play. He didn't, he gave them direction, but for the most part, his thing, what he brought to the table was to let good guys do what they do, you know.
Yeah,
So
So have you had a chance to walk around?
I have. I've been here all day.
Yeah. Did you see anything cool?
I saw a lot of cool things, and what was fun is even though I hadn't been to a show in a number of years, I saw a lot of guys who were still in the business, reacquainted myself with them. Some are with different companies than they were last time, because that happens in this business, but I'm a guitar guy deep down. It's like when I talk to Oates, he's like, hey, have you seen this guitar or that guitar? Because all of us deep down are just guitar guys, you know, and gear guys. So yeah, I have to be careful at a show like this, or I'll say, yeah, send me that, you know. I get home and there's just boxes and bills piled up. You know, you got to be careful.
What's your primary guitar right now? What are you using?
I would say my store is shifting probably slowly more toward acoustic instruments, but I sell PRS in the store. I sell Mesa Boogie. I sell a lot of Larrivee guitars. I'm very fond of them, and they treat me well. I'm a Larrivee artist. That's the guitar that I play when I'm on the road. So,
but you, when you're playing, what guitar do you gravitate to?
You know, well, I use Larrivees when I'm on the road, but I've got a number of old Martins, a lot of old Gibsons. I had an old '58 Strat, but when my daughter said she was getting married a few years back, I sold it. That's what I saved it all those years for.
Do you mind if I ask you how much you got for it?
Well, let me just tell you this. In '76, I paid $250 for it. And I think in 2008, when the market kind of tanked and she needed the money for the wedding, 17, 18 grand. So I did okay as a percentage. But right before that, that's when they were kind of. But there's a guy in the town I live in Western Colorado, a little town of 2,200, and he's got a 57 with tags still on it. He still thinks it's worth 45 grand. We're negotiating. We have been for years.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for your time. I hope you like the album.
Everybody should check this out. David Starr, Head and the Heart. Produced by the great John Oates. You know, if it's got his stamp of approval, this music must be terrific.
I hope you like it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Here we are.
How are you?
We have the incredible Mr. Jake Allen with us.
Hello, interweb.
Listen, if you guys have not checked out this guy's playing on YouTube, wait till after this is over, the interview's over, but go up and check out. Phenomenal player. I was just digging on your Eleanor Rigby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
And sort of what's going on with you right now?
Well, we're hanging out at Summer NAMM. This is my first time actually at Summer NAMM. I go to the one in Anaheim all the time, which is a complete madhouse. So it's nice to come here and kind of be a little more laid back.
This is pretty chill. This is sort of nice. It's really
I walked in
enjoyable.
here this morning and looked at it and I was like, oh, it's cute. It's a baby NAMM. It's very adorable. So we were just over at the Tonewood Amp booth, which is the company that I'm here with, and just doing some songs with the Tonewood amp. I don't know if you're hip to that yet, but it's a device that you put on the back of your guitar, and it gives you reverbs and delays that come out of the sound hole of your guitar. It's an actual, like, this really cool kind of new invention that's blowing up.
So you do that. You use your the guitar a lot as percussion. So
yeah,
the reverb and the echoes and stuff, you can create sort of polyrhythms and stuff.
Yeah, you can have delays going and stuff, and get all these kind of trippy, spacey things happening. Yeah. And you can do it when you're sitting in your living room on your couch. You don't have to plug into a PA or an amp or anything like that. It's pretty awesome. So I've been hanging out with them. We have a house full of rambunctious musicians here in Nashville, and we're just having a great time.
A lot of good musicians in Nashville.
Yeah. So I'm actually playing a show tonight with one of the Tonewood artists, a guy named Mike Dawes, who is absolutely mesmerizing. He is like,
again, if you guys
amazing.
have never seen Mike Dawes, you should definitely check out some of his work. I had the pleasure of seeing him warming up for the Moody Blues about 6 or 7 months ago, and he was astonishing.
Yeah, he plays with Justin from the Moody Blues. I think he opens their shows and plays in the band as a guitar player, and so he's out and about doing a lot of really cool stuff.
Are you guys doing duets? Are you playing together, or is it?
We're doing one duet. We worked up a duet with a couple Tonewood amps, and it's got this really cool spacey vibe. It's a cover by John Mayer. I won't give it away, because we'll save it for the show. But the show is tonight. If anybody's in Nashville who's watching, the show's tonight at City Winery, which is a really cool laid-back venue, and it's in the lounge. And I think it starts at 9 o'clock. Doors at 8, and show at 9. Sponsored by Takamine and Tonewood Amps. So huge thanks to them for sponsoring the event and making it possible for us to get out and play.
So you have a new album, right?
Yes, I have an album I've been working on for a few years now, and it's finally reaching its final. It's almost done, and
So
I don't have the words
should
to
we
express how happy I am about it. Finally, it's been like a huge weight on my shoulders, kind of.
So are you a huge perfectionist in the studio? I mean, what's taking so long?
I'm a perfectionist, and I want to release. I want to release good records for the course of my life from here forward. So nothing can be rushed. I'm like a very, very detail-oriented person. So, but it's finally done, or it's almost done, and it's called Deviant Motions, and it's going to release probably somewhere in late September. So keep an eye out for that. And also going to be releasing a music video shortly before the record comes out for a single called If You Fall Apart, which I'm very excited about.
Is it as a solo performer, or do you have a band with you on this?
Well, I'm going to, what I do in the studio is I play everything myself. I'm a multi-instrumentalist, and I've nerded out on a whole bunch of instruments my whole life, so I'm able to go in there and do all these parts and record everything on my own. But then to go out and do it live, I usually put together a band from northern Michigan, where I'm from. Some friends of mine will usually come out.
I'm a Michigan boy
tour.
myself.
Really, where are you from?
I'm south of Detroit. I'm
Okay.
like in Taylor, Michigan.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm up in the northern part in a town right now called Gaylord, which is out in the woods.
I know Gaylord. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice spot to be in the summer,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
absolutely terrifying in the winter.
We used to drive out there in high school to get away from my parents and do bad things.
That's a good spot to do it. Definitely a lot of privacy to do terrible things in the woods and whatnot.
What can you tell us about the new record? How is it different, do you think, than some of your other work?
Well, it's been, I hate to say this, but it's been 6 years since I've released a full-length record. I did a cover EP a few years ago, which I released called Rearrangements, which was really reflective of my live acoustic show. But the new album is kind of where the last one left off in a way. There's a lot of fingerstyle guitar and interesting guitar techniques, but kind of pasted over this backdrop of progressive rock type of music and a lot of jazz influence, but also packaged in kind of a poppy way. So it's a real weird concoction of stuff.
So I don't want to get too nerdy about it, but I am sort of curious about, especially the complications of recording the type of guitar that you play in a studio setting. Is what's difficult about it is when you strike it, when you have these sort of percussive elements in the music, of getting that to respond, to be able to record that, to get that to sound the way you want it to sound?
I mean, that's part of the perfectionism that comes in. It's like that it is a difficult thing to capture. So when you're doing things like that, you have to, first it has to be played very, very accurately. And with anything in recording, you're going to get your most quality at the front end, and everything going in at the very start, you want to be meticulous with that, if not more so than with the mixing. Probably equally so, but
if you play it right, the mixing is a snap.
Yes. But with that in mind, with the percussive stuff, a lot of compression and stuff like that usually comes into play, and things to kind of tame it down and lock it into place and make it sound like it's all part of one thing happening.
So you're finished with it, but you dig it. It came out the way you wanted it.
I'm digging it. I'm actually digging it.
Good.
I wasn't sure if I was gonna dig it, but I think looking at it now, I dig it. Yeah.
But sometimes you just have to, you just have to do it and move on, and knowing somewhere down the road that next chapter is going to happen. Like, you can't get too hung up. My good friend Eric Johnson is like very. He could stay in the studio forever
Yeah.
just trying to get one note right. And he realizes that. Now he's like, I'm just trying to surround myself with people who won't let me do
Exactly.
that.
You have to have somebody in there to come in and say it's done. And it's hard to be done yourself, you know.
He did that. He did the record with Mike Stern. I don't know whether you heard it or not, but Mike's a jazz artist, and you know, Mike's used to, okay, we're going to record this live, and that's the performance, and that's it, you know.
Yeah.
So him and Eric would be talking together, and they'd say, well, how long do we need to record this record? And Mike's like, well, we should be able to do this in 2 days.
Yeah. See, that wouldn't work for me. I'm like, oh, we can record it, we can make it glorious. Let's put lots and lots of time into it. Too much time, even.
So are you getting ready to tour? And all that
yeah.
stuff?
Well, I'm actually I'm guest performing with a group now called the Accidentals,
Awesome.
out of Traverse City, Michigan. An amazing string duo, and they also have a drummer. So I've been playing guitar in their band and keyboards, which is kind of strange. They liked my guitar playing so much they hired me as a keyboard player. So I've been touring around with them all around the country since February, and I've been opening the shows with my acoustic show. So it's been a really a pleasure to be able to go out there, play with these awesome cats, and also open the shows and sell merch and stuff like that, and get my name out to these towns that a lot of them I haven't been to yet. So I'm going to continue touring with them, and then continue further touring on my own, and hopefully getting my band back together in the fall and winter months.
Well, everybody out there in Guitar World land, you definitely, if you haven't heard this gentleman play, you should check out his stuff on YouTube or on Spotify or wherever better
It's
music.
out there, yeah. iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff.
All that
Just look
stuff.
up Jake Allen or Jake Allen Music.
And really keep an eye out for his new record. What's going to be called again?
It's called Deviant Motions.
Deviant Motions, man.
And that's the first time I've said that. Finally revealing the title.
It's going to be out in September, and thanks for stopping by. and
Thank you,
hanging
Brad.
out.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Our next guest that we have with us is a gentleman who's brought his guitar. That's always
Yes,
a
sir.
good thing.
Absolutely.
His name is Juan John.
Yes, sir.
And what brings you down to the Nashville NAMM show?
I am performing for McPherson Guitars and showcasing the new Carbon Fiber series.
You must be pretty good.
Well, I've been. I hope so. I hope I don't disappoint.
It'd be great if you just like were the worst.
Yeah. I think I can play
Clank,
Stairway.
clank.
Think. We might start with that. We'll see.
That would be awesome. So, anyways, are you recording? You have record? Are you out performing, touring?
I am currently out performing and touring. I released a 5-song EP that I recorded with Michael Wagner here in town,
Oh,
the rock producer.
the rock producer.
Yeah,
White
yeah.
Lion.
Yes, he's a
Yes.
great guy. He recorded Master of Puppets and all kinds of great
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
that I grew up listening to.
Yeah.
So it was a huge honor to record with him. So I've got a 5-song EP on my website. People
Nice.
can download. And I tour the country currently as a solo acoustic entertainer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Singing or instrumental or?
I do sing. I prefer not to. Honestly, it's 30% singing and 70% guitar.
Cool.
Yeah.
Can I hear you play something?
Yeah, I would love to play for you guys.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to hold the mic,
You got it.
and we'll just, hopefully this is going to sound good. Can we hear it? Very nice. I think this guy can play Stairway to Heaven.
Thank you very much.
So what about, it's a really interesting guitar that you have here. What about, can you tell us anything about this?
Absolutely. This is the new McPherson Carbon Series. McPherson is known for making high-end wooden instruments, all handmade, of course. And so they started making guitars that they wanted, just working guitar players not only be able to afford, but beat up on the road and just be super durable. These are handmade in Sparta, Wisconsin, literally by hand by the same guys that are making the really expensive wooden instruments. And so they hand sand the necks, they hand sand the fretboards, they hand sand the frets. Everything's done by hand in the factory. It's super impressive, and they're a joy to play on the road. I don't have enough great things to say about it. So
it looks like too, like it looks tough. Like if the audience somehow isn't being very agreeable.
When those bottles come flying at you, it's just
you take a swing and knock it back. Carbon fiber's not going to hurt the thing.
No, it's not. On a horror story that going through Arizona one year, I had 2 in the trunk. I left them in the trunk on purpose, and I called Larry. I said, I'm going to try to break your guitars. And Larry says, go ahead, try. 117 degrees outside. I left them in the trunk. They were there for about 2 days. I pulled them out, and they were perfectly in tune. They also got stuck underwater in a mini flood. I just kind of shook them out, dried them off, and that was it. I just put new strings on it, and they were good to go. Like, they're amazing instruments, and they sound phenomenal.
Yeah.
The technology behind it is incredible. The binding and everything that Matt did for these guitars is just insane.
When you play live, do you mic it or do you plug it in?
I plug it in, but I love the way they sound so good acoustically that I approached LR Bags about possibly doing a microphone setup for this, and we tested the Anthem system in these guitars, and it sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
They come standard with the LR Bags elements already, but to add the microphone in there as a solo performer, it just starts pushing that acoustic air, and it sounds wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, I played in a band where the singer rhythm guitar player played one of those Ovation guitars for a number of years.
Yeah.
And it's not exactly like this. It's a little different principle. But I was always very skeptical. But I found it was really super strong, especially as a rhythm instrument.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite things about this. The durability and strength on this instrument, but even more so, instrument that's made of non-wood, you get this really awesome, it's got soul. It's made by hand. You can feel it, and you get killer overtones, killer sustain. It's just a really wonderful instrument. It's inspiring to play. It's hands down inspiring to play.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
And so you're playing when now? You're playing this evening?
Actually, I will be performing all week at the McPherson booth.
Okay.
So if people want to come and hear these guitars, I'll be playing there for them and just having a good time, saying hi. I have some friends popping in, picking as well, and other guitar players, come on down, say hey.
Did you get a chance to walk the floor?
I haven't yet, unfortunately. It's
Okay.
day one though, so we're gonna pump it out and see what we can do here. So
well, maybe we're gonna be here all week.
Excellent.
Maybe we'll have you come back, play another song, and
Would love
you can tell us what you found.
Excellent. That would be awesome.
You can give us a report back.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I would love to.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks.
Yes, we do. I need to get the other chair.
Hey everybody, we are at the NAMM show in Nashville, live on Guitar World, live on Guitar World YouTube. I think we're on Twitch TV. We're in a few other places out there too. So welcome. We've got a couple of new guests here, a couple of new victims. We have with us Justin and Sarah. Oh, Striking Matches.
Hello, how are you?
I've heard about you guys.
Hopefully that's a good thing.
I've heard that you're good.
Well, thank you.
We try.
Try, practice.
So tell me a little bit, what brings you to the Nashville NAMM show?
Yeah, we're here. We're hanging out with our friends at Takamine who've been really cool with us, and have given us guitars because we tend to break them, unfortunately, just when we're like kind of really getting into it, and so they've been really amazing. They kind of keep us equipped.
Okay, now you don't break them fighting with each other.
It's happened, yeah. I don't know.
But we've been playing Takamine guitars for our acoustic setup for 7 years, 8 years, a long time, and we just love them.
Well, I'll tell you, one of my first jobs, so we're talking like a long time ago, was at a folk and bluegrass store in Michigan called the Get Fiddler, and we were one of the first music stores to carry Takamines.
Wow.
And they've always been like fantastic sort of, affordable instruments. They work. So, anyways, could you tell me a little bit about your music?
Yeah, sure. You want to go?
Well, Justin and I, we've been a band for about eight years now. We met here in Nashville. We live here. We met at a university called Belmont University just up the street. Came to town to be guitar players and got hooked up in a class to play for the rest of the class and started playing together. And so we've been doing that for a long time. We're signed with Capitol Records out of LA. And
we've just got new music that we've recorded. It's coming out. It sounds like September, so that we're kind of gearing up for that.
Cool. Can you tell me anything like what's the name of the album and like how people can get it and all that?
Yeah, the name is totally a secret, which is not the name of the record. And that really is just code for we haven't decided on it yet.
Right, yeah. But
it's whittled down to at least 2 or 3 things. And
well, maybe we could have a contest.
Yeah. That'd be amazing.
We could have people out here submit submit 2 things.
Yeah.
I don't know, what do they say about like how you come up with your porn name is your pet and your street name.
Yeah, which ironically is what we were going with anyway. So we may have to change that now that spoilers.
So do you have a pet?
No. That's the
No.
problem.
Sorry. That was just
No pets.
never going to get off the ground.
It just totally messed us up.
Yeah.
So is it just you guys playing live, or do you have a band, or?
Yeah, it kind of all starts with us and just us being guitar players. We kind of start there and work outward. And so the record has kind of all means of production where I think we wound up playing pretty much everything on the record just because we like to. So
do you guys have specific roles as guitar players? I mean, are you like more the rhythm person? Are you more the riff person? Like how does that work?
We both play lead. I play actually a lot of slide, so I play more slide, and Justin does more of the kind of finger style playing.
Yeah, I was always much more of like a finger style player, and I think the styles when we first started playing together, they sort of complemented each other. And Sarah she's an incredible slide player, so I don't even touch playing slide or anything like that because she's got that covered. So, but we're definitely both lead players, so we're always kind of fighting for
who gets the
territory
solo.
on that. Yeah.
I know, like that's one thing I have to say. I've gone there like a few times with my guitar playing where I got to learn how to play some slide, and I just sit there sounding atrocious for like 3 hours, and I can never really figure out what finger to hold the slide on. Do I do the little finger? Do I do this? What are you?
We were just having this discussion with someone. I use my ring finger, but I have, small hands, so I can't really fit it on my pinky anyway, but I've always used my ring finger. So for me, that's what I use. A lot of people use their pinkies, but...
Yeah, we were talking about Sunday Landreth using his pinky and how it frees up his other fingers to just do all the crazy things he does, but I don't know. I think Sarah reminds me much more of maybe the Derek Truck style where it's very melodic and just kind of making every note count. So you don't necessarily need the other fingers, but you just not that you don't use them anyway.
Enough.
Yeah, it's enough.
I was going to ask you who your influences were in terms of that, and one slide player that's totally underrated, and he just kept on picked it up late, and he kept on getting better, and on his last record, some of the greatest slide playing was George Harrison.
Yeah.
People don't think of him as
a
slide player, but he was, because he had this really incredible melodic thing. It almost seemed like some other weird instrument or
Right,
something,
yeah,
you
that's
know.
true.
Yeah, he did it so sneakily, I think, where it was almost like a vocal line or something,
Yeah.
something that was always so singable that I just don't think it registered with people. Like when they're used to hearing slide almost sound like Delta blues or something,
Right.
that was almost maybe in the Jimmy Page sort of realm. That Harrison was always so melodic that I think people, if you just asked them, they wouldn't even necessarily know that it was slide playing. It was
I mean,
really
his
cool.
intonation is so perfect too, because I guess because he's used to listening to Indian music,
Yeah.
where they're dealing
Yeah.
with all those quarter tones and all those,
Yeah.
like his ears are pretty sharp, you know.
That's true. Yeah.
So are you more blues influenced, or is it country influenced, or?
I would say more blues influenced. Yeah, I mean, I as far as slide goes, I'm everywhere from Bonnie Raitt to Jimmy Page to somebody like Sonny Landreth, who sort of just does his own world of things, you know.
And I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with your music, so I won't pretend that I am. But is it instrumental, or is it vocal, or is it?
It's vocal, yeah.
It's a bit of both, but we've been songwriters, you know, all our lives. So
So
that's
what was
always
the
been-
last song that you guys wrote? Not the one recorded, but
Recorded.
the very last song that
Yeah.
you that
I
you
think we
just
wrote one on the way over.
wrote.
Yeah. Just like I think we were in the car just saying wham, NAMM, thank you, ma'am, or something like that. It was like making up, just because every time NAMM rolls around, we're always like, oh, wow, are we excited, or are we kind of just, are we ready to get into this? Or it's always just such an overwhelming force. I think the last thing we wrote was like last week, and it was just, we were messing around because we were playing at the Bluebird Cafe here in town, and so we always try and have something new to play.
Cool.
So much of what we do is riff based, so we'll come up with a riff, a guitar riff, and then write the song around that, add the vocals and everything. So.
Nice. So, anyways, really appreciate you guys stopping by. You
Thanks for
guys,
having us.
are you playing when you're in town? Are you playing tonight or playing?
Just did the Bluebird last night.
Oh, you did the Bluebird last
so
night.
So we live here, so we play here often.
Yeah.
Pretty often when we're home.
Yeah, we'll be out in LA in a few weeks actually, and things are piling up leading up to release in September, which will be really, really exciting. And so yeah, we'll be out in LA playing all over in August.
Yeah. And we do a lot of stuff in the UK as well, so we're on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that. So.
Yeah. I know that you guys are Takamine players, but were you able to sort of walk around the show at all? Have you had a chance to look around? Did you see anything exciting?
Yeah, a little bit. I
Yeah,
saw some cool stuff.
there's been some amazing things. I mean, we played Takamine acoustics primarily, but probably more often than not, we're electric players, and I've always played Strats. Sarah plays an SG, and so we've kind of been going around to every booth, and there's just so many amazing new devices and crazy things that either make life more complicated or easier. I don't know, just being here. They're just some amazing things.
I mean, I tend to be like, I have my guitars, but I don't have hundreds of guitars. Like I have 4 or 5, because I don't know, for me, it takes a while to get used to a guitar.
Yeah, it does,
Like I'm not like always looking for the new one. I'm trying half the time figure out how to get that sound out of my one guitar. I mean, do you have your favorite? Do you have your go-to?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I think anytime you pick up a new one, it's like a stranger, really.
Yeah, it's like new shoes. You gotta just like break them in and learn how to walk on them, you know.
It can be a real challenge if you walk in, if you're just sitting in on a show or something, somebody wants to have you get up and play a song, and they just hand you a guitar. It can really be jarring because you're so used to the feel of yours and just and how it bends and just I think there's a breaking in process where it feels like an old like catcher's mitt or something where it just develops that feel.
The thing I hate is when I play, somebody's like hands me their guitar and the strings are too thin.
Yeah.
I hate thin. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
man.
a guy that I go for 10s and 11s, you know.
Which I think that's you too, just especially with the slide and stuff. It gets a better tone.
Like sometimes these metal guys hand me their guitars and they're like 8s or something on them, and and they're detuned, and you're
that
like,
can be
"Oh."
kind of fun because you realize how much faster you can go.
Right,
Just like,
that's
oh my
what I'm
God,
thinking.
I am so fast.
And then you break one, and then you're like,
yeah,
oh, that's
you're
why.
like, well, that was over. That string just melted.
Well, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for
and
having us.
there's going to be a new record. They don't know what to call it.
yeah, we're getting there though. So it's
It may,
always not lost.
it may even just be the case where it's sort of like a pet. They ask you to take it and
yeah.
let you name it. Like you buy it and you bought it, you name it.
What would be amazing is just we'll make it a second self-titled record, and their second self-titled record. Yeah, just,
No, you guys, I could tell you guys are a lot more imaginative than that.
yeah, we're not too worried about it, but.
So anyways, striking matches. Look out for some new music and check out some of their old music too. Why not? And thanks for coming by, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, cheers.
Congratulations, you're famous. Okay, the guy who made the arrangement for this is Ray Maxwell from Eventide.
That made the arrangement, sure.
For this interview.
Okay, cool. So
I'm going to kind of talk up Eventide a little bit.
Yeah.
And
it's going live. We'll get
we're going live. Here we go. Hi. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
I haven't met you yet, Brad. I'm Joe Berger.
Joe Berger, the legendary Joe Berger.
I'm a guitarist. I just finished playing outside with the John Hammond Funk Unit.
Yeah, and how was that?
And it was wonderful. We had a great time. We were using some local Nashville musicians and some New York people.
Okay.
And we do this pretty much every year here, and we play at NAMM in California, and I play all the trade shows all over the world.
What are the funk standards? What are some of the standards?
Well, they're all his music. It's all John Hammond's original music.
Okay, gotcha.
So, we're funky, but it's all original music.
Yes.
But yeah, there are many funk standards. I can tell you that getting back to Eventide, I have a thing called an Eventide omnipressor. Sorry. I have a thing called, and I've been telling people to do this for like 40 years. I have an Eventide omnipressor that was played by Anthony Jackson recording the song Money. You know the song Money?
Yeah, certainly.
That bass line in the beginning of Money.
Oh, that one.
That bass is playing through the unit that I have sitting at home.
Oh, cool.
Kind of a historic unit, and Anthony's such a great player.
Yeah.
But I've become a guitarist. I was a sound engineer for 40 years for everybody, and became a guitarist. Well, I've been a guitarist all along, but I became a full-time...
A professional guitarist.
Well, a full-time guitarist. The word professional, you know, I don't like to use that word. I do it because I love it.
Okay, he's an unprofessional guitarist.
I'm an unprofessional guitarist.
A good one.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
Some people think so.
What by and large brings you to the Nashville NAMM show?
Well, to play this set with the John Hammond Funk Unit was the main reason I'm playing tonight at a place called Big Shots.
Nice.
And it's like some big party. And I'm supposed to play with Doug Wimbish and a bunch of people. He's from Living Color.
That's some good company right there.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of other people coming down, and I'm going to play with John again and this wonderful girl drummer, Kaylee Moyer.
Nice.
She's making the scene here in Nashville, doing real well. But years ago, I did this show. I did the show in Germany, the Music Messe in Frankfurt, and I ended up on stage with John Entwistle from The Who and Ringo's son on drums.
Zach, when
he was 17, 30 years ago. And I became John Entwistle's sound engineer after that for about 15 years with all of his, and I introduced him to the band that became his solo act, the John Entwistle Band, and made all those live records and everything with him on tour.
So you keep on ending up with all these bass players.
Right, well, you know, I'm a guitar player. The last thing I need is another guitar player. So I love bass players, but actually there's no bass player in the John Hammond Funk unit. The organ is the bass.
It's all about the feet.
Yeah.
It's all about the foot
So
action.
actually, he does it with his left hand.
So I basically know nothing, everybody.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. So what is this? This is, I mean, I heard that I was supposed to actually talk up Eventide here.
Well, yeah, we're going to get to that, but we're having a far-flung conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm here with the legendary Joe Berger, and I've got to know everything.
Leslie West always called me a legend in my own lunchtime.
So tell me, what's Eventide showing this year that's interesting?
They have some new algorithms for the H9, which is pretty much their flagship pedal. It's kind of a culmination of all the things Eventide has made in the audio world for 40 years into one small box, programmable, very interesting box that you can use an iPad to control. And I love the tone quality is just so superior to all these other pedals that you see. You know, they cost more because they give you real audiophile audio quality throughout the system.
Are you a guy that really goes in and tweaks?
I'm a tweaker. I've created a lot of pedals for companies. I've programmed a lot of pedals for a lot of companies. I'm currently working with some I won't name, but Chinese companies and creating some new toys. And I appear at every trade show that allows a guitar player to play. And
do you dig that whole thing now with being able to use a computer as an interface?
Well, I was one of the last to go kicking and screaming out of the analog world into the digital world as a sound engineer. But as a guitar player, I actually liked the computer thing. I had done a lot of research and development for Zoom when they made a computer guitar system back in 2008.
Right.
And
you know what's interesting is I've always been a little reluctant with, I like the sort of hands-on thing.
Yeah.
But I recently got a mixer with a
digital
mixer using the iPad as a controller.
Yeah, leap of
and
faith.
it's really cool.
It works. You can do a lot of stuff. You can walk out in the audience.
Yes, you can hear everything.
And make adjustments.
Yeah.
You can go around the stage and make adjustments. And this show, these shows are so great because it's just a giant meeting of everybody in the industry, people who make stuff, people who play stuff, people who promote stuff, people who put it in their studios, and you just get pretty much every aspect of the music business in one place for 3 or 4 days. The one in California is actually kind of crazy.
Yeah.
This is
This is manageable. Yeah, exactly. It is.
The one in California is insane.
Yeah.
Every minute you've got 800 people waiting for their favorite heavy metal band to sign their record or something. They're not even there for equipment.
So this is going out to Guitar World's audience.
Guitar World. I love Guitar World.
So
I have a friend that used to work there.
So who?
Greg DiBenedetto.
Oh, yeah, the legendary Greg
One
DiBenedetto.
of my oldest friends in the music.
He's here.
He's here.
Yeah, he's here.
I hope to run into him.
Yeah, he's bopping around.
Yeah.
So what's your axe of choice these days? What are you
I have
playing?
my own guitar. It's called the Wild Man.
Yep.
Made by JJ Guitars in England.
Nice.
And it's my own model. It's a single cutaway Les Paul shape, but a little more, a little thinner and lighter. And it's got a 24 fret ebony fingerboard and a Bill Lawrence pickup in it.
Oh, cool.
L90 pickup. Jeff Guilford out of Derby, England makes these guitars.
Yeah.
So when you order one, you've got about a year to wait. But it's well worth the wait. It's the finest guitar I've ever played. And I have a lot of other signature equipment out there in the making.
Yes.
So by next year, I should have a full rig of everything mine.
Awesome. Well, how does if somebody's from Guitar World in Guitar World land is interested in checking this stuff out, I mean, how do you put that information out into the universe? Do you have your own
pretty
website?
Look me up on Facebook. Joe Berger on Facebook. I'm the only Joe Berger playing with Entwistle in my profile picture.
Okay.
It's a blue picture. You'll
Okay.
find it. There are probably 500 Joe Bergers on Facebook.
Yes.
But I'm the one with the guitars and playing with everybody. And there are a million videos on there. And John Hammond also has a huge internet presence. He puts stuff out on 40 or 50 different things at once.
Cool.
So the video of today's show will probably be out in a few days. Last year's show, we played with Lee Oscar and everybody here. And I've been also, like, my engineering thing is the other side, you know. I mean, 30 years ago, I was working for Les Paul, Alan Holdsworth, Vangelis, all these different people that had a lot to do with sound.
Yes.
So sound was my history, but in the last 5 years, I've decided, since I went like totally deaf, that I should just play the guitar and, you know.
Hey, man, it keeps life interesting.
Yeah, well, I enjoy it so much.
That's good.
You know, one thing John Entwistle used to say is I would play at the opening of an envelope. And I love that.
John Entwistle, I mean, I don't have to say this, but people really do not understand how astonishing and what a strange
there
technique.
Are some people out there.
Yeah. I mean,
he actually told me that he only stole from guitar players, never bass players.
I think he stole from Segovia.
Well, he said he stole from me.
Yeah.
And he actually, there are videos of us playing where he's doing stuff that he purposely to show me that he learned it.
That thing with his 4 fingers on.
Yeah. Oh no, he was an incredible.
A freak
and
of
the guy
nature.
loved nothing more than to play and play loud. One time we did a concert outside in Colorado, in the middle of nowhere, and the park ranger comes driving up, and he says, "You know, there's a $10,000 fine for playing too loud." You know what John said to him? "I'll take you." And on that note, I think we're okay. We need more. We need.
No,
I got plenty. I was almost the drummer in Kiss. I can tell you a lot of different stories. So.
Well, we're here all week.
I'll be back.
Come back.
I'll come back and do another one.
Love to.
And Eventide makes beautiful stuff. I love Eventide. Thank you, Ray, for setting all this up. And
everybody, Mr. Joe Berger, thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, John.
Hope we had some fun there.
Absolutely.
Let me give you a CD at least.
Absolutely. Almost.
I didn't know why I carry these things around anymore.
We're gonna get a CD from Mr. Joe Berger and plug that. Anyways, we're here at the Nashville NAMM show. We've just been chatting with the legendary Mr. Joe Berger, engineer, guitarist extraordinaire, and Eventide endorser, and he designed those. And he just gave me a CD called Sessions at the Cave.
That's
number
the
2.
drummer's house.
Very good. So next we're going to bring up. We are going to bring up one of the.
All right. Cheers. Thank you.
We'll see you, Joe.
I'll be back for another. How you doing, man?
So next up, we're going to bring one of the busiest men in showbiz, Mr. Paul Nelson.
What's going on?
How are you doing?
Very good. Hey, I just want to say one thing before we start the interview.
Yes.
I don't know how many of your fans know, but I worked with Johnny Winter. He was a friend, an idol, and I just want to let you know how much you meant to him when you told stories or did interviews about him. He read everything.
Wow.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And you did a lot for him during the times when he was trying to rebuild.
Yeah.
And it was greatly appreciated.
Well,
Just-
you know, Paul played
Don't
with
ever
Johnny.
touch me. No,
Paul.
Is this live?
Yes.
Okay, you got it.
Yes.
All right. Good.
I was just touching.
I'm just kidding.
So Paul played in Johnny's band, and I have to say, especially as a young person growing up, like when I was 12, 13, 14, Johnny Winter was the world to me. I loved Johnny, and Paul was there and for a lot of really great Johnny's later
like
career.
You, to play with an idol like
Yeah.
he played with Muddy and that kind of thing. That's the kind of intensity it was for me to join his band. And I did join as a guitarist first.
Yep.
And it really meant a lot. But then I got to know the band.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw there were problems, so I stepped in to help as much as I could. And then you know how that transpired.
So I do want to definitely talk about what you're doing now, because Paul's doing a lot of great stuff right now. But while we're on the subject, I mean, what was it like to actually play with Johnny? What are things that you learned from watching him play?
When I met Johnny, he was probably at the height of his low point. So it was twofold. I saw someone who I befriended and knew I had to help, but at the same time, as a musician, I had one of the greatest guitar players in the world playing at half speed.
Yeah.
So musicians are like sponges, so I learned as much as I could, because his stuff was the hardest to learn.
Yeah.
So as he built up, I knew the point that he had to get, because I was a musician that had learned his stuff. So I knew where he had to be, and I knew what he was trying to play, even while he was under the influence of, all the stuff from the past, and it catches up with you.
Yeah.
So it was a huge honor. I wrote songs for him. I played with him. But he was a historian, and I've met a few like that, like you, blues historians, Billy Gibbons, Bill Wax from Sirius XM, Dick Sherman, producer. And Johnny knew not just the music, but the behind-the-scenes stuff. He was very well read into the biographies of all the people that he appreciated. So he read books on all the artists. That's why I said he was so keen on what you wrote, because he was reading about himself through your words, and it meant a lot.
Well, Johnny Winter, I mean, he's deeply immersed in music history, but still managed. He's one of the rare guys to not be overcome by it. He was still an original.
Right.
Like nobody really sounded like Johnny, and he invented so many of the conventions that people play with today. These
his amp settings were treble on 10, middle on 0, bass on 0, volume on Spinal Tap 11. It was the brightest tone that shouldn't have worked. And he even said, I have a tone that shouldn't work, but it's such a signature of mine, and it always cut through.
Do you think it's because of the thumb pick that he would play, like the plastic pick?
The articulation, because of the thumb pick?
Yeah.
Think about when he was, late 60s, late 70s, that time of music, where now you hold your pick a certain way to get for speed picking, and because of the way that thumb pick, he used it and where it was placed, it was ideal for fist speed picking. So you put it in the hands of a guy who studied Chet Atkins and finger picking, that kind of thing. The articulation was insane.
Yeah.
And like you said, growing up listening to Johnny, I didn't know that Johnny used a thumb pick when I first started out. And when I first saw him at a concert, I was like, how is he getting these moving lines and melodies? He studied Merle Travers and Chet Atkins. He had all that together. But the speed picking and the combination of notes, groups of 5s and groups of 6s, which everybody's, that's, you want to listen to jam band, you listen to Johnny for 18 minutes on a solo, and it's still interesting.
Yes.
But the articulation, that was key, and the way he outlined chords, almost like a sax player, his brother, that kind of thing. So you could hear the melodies, even when he played by himself, outlining the chords. That was a big thing, and the double stops and all that. I studied that stuff, and in producing him, I was able to see in Pro Tools those things spelled out. So it was a huge honor and a huge learning experience to see that. Everybody quotes Johnny as, or saying he had a tackle box of turnarounds. He did. And that's what he got out of the early blues, was those Robert Johnson turnarounds.
Yes.
He had it stockpiled. And the turnarounds were always different. Always. So the thumb pick did make a big difference in the tone.
Do you play slide?
Yes.
I mean, to
Not
me,
as well as Johnny.
Yeah. I mean, to me, when people talk about slide, you know, it's Dwayne Allman always gets mentioned. Some other people always gets mentioned.
Absolutely.
But to me, Johnny was there even before all of
Yeah.
those guys
Yeah.
playing that magnificent slide guitar.
And Johnny had the slide playing, the regular playing, and the voice.
Yes.
That growl. And he lost that for a while during the 90s. That's how I knew he was getting healthier and he was ready to, it was time to record. When I did the Roots album with him and Step Back, the voice was back, and that's when we appeared on Letterman.
Growl, but
Yeah.
also beautiful gospel singing voice too.
Some of those ballads he did. His vocal idols were Bobby Blue Bland and Ray Charles.
Yeah.
Period. And a little Zappa for the low. Yeah, it came out of nowhere. I was like, yeah, I'm telling you.
Johnny Winter was into Frank Zappa?
Yes, and Dylan. You know, from the Woodstock era.
Dylan, I
so
get.
that 60s
Dylan,
stuff
I
came
get,
out.
yeah,
You can
yeah.
touch me. Yeah. But yeah, that came in from that Woodstock thing. So you had a blues guy where it had to make some kind of difference in the way he dressed and the rock period of his career. He didn't really like that whole rock period. He thought that he sold himself out to the blues, and he said that to me many times. And I couldn't believe that. I said to him, no, but you don't understand. When we were reading about you, we learned about Muddy. We learned about Robert Johnson because you were the icon saying where you learned it from. And I said, I go, you should know this. He's like, well, I guess that's so, but he didn't like he wanted to go back to blues. That's why we did the Step Back record. And I said, look, we're going to play nothing but blues. He goes, thank God.
Yeah.
And that was pleasing to him. So.
Okay, well, you
Blues
know,
purist.
we all love Johnny. We know about Johnny, but you're a fine guitar player in
Well,
your
thank you. I
own
appreciate
right,
it.
my friend.
And coming from you, well, you know.
That and 5 cents will get you a nickel.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate it. I mean, like I said,
So what
Johnny
are you?
saw something in me. He hired me as his guitar player. That's how I started off. Things developed where I saw he was in a certain shape, and I helped out the way I could. We became close friends.
Yep.
And, you know, I've studied. I went to Berklee College of Music. I studied with Vi and Mike Stern and Steve Kahn and all that. So, you know.
And you didn't let that wreck you?
No, right. But I
I'm kidding.
knew the right hat to wear for the right musical situation.
Yeah.
And it's the session player in me. And that's where I actually met Johnny, was at a studio in Connecticut where I was doing sessions for the WWE. And he heard me do a blues segment for one of the artists, and he goes, I need you to write me a song. And that's how it started. And then we went to Bishop Stock, and then, yeah, because it's like, where did you come from? And people know my rock background and that kind of thing, but yeah, that's how it started. So that's my new release on
But
Sony.
we have this thing right here, everybody.
Yep, that thing.
That thing right there.
I'm touring that right now.
It's called Paul Nelson.
Badass Generation.
Badass Generation. We're okay to say words like badass.
All right.
aren't we? Yeah.
You can say generation?
And
Okay.
and generation.
I guess.
So
We still on the air?
Tell
Yeah.
me a bit about this. How did this come together, and who are the guys that are playing on it?
Johnny passed away, and a few months later, I had been approached by labels saying, you know, you got to continue on. You know, the blues world especially, they passed the torch or to the next guy. You know, guys like Albert Collins and that kind of thing. So like I said, I had studied. I had to keep on playing no matter what anyway. So Sony showed interest. I went into the studio, and I was going to do a blues album. But then something else happened. My love for 70s stuff, my love for production of bands like Boston and Aerosmith and ZZ Top, it just started coming in. And I had a singer that I had produced in Norway. He was #2 on The Voice, Morten Fredheim, that I worked with. I called him over. So now he was into Bad Company and Free. So everybody I'm bringing in, it's just going in that direction.
Right.
So Badass Generation came about because this term is being used so much now. So this generation, Badass Generation, appreciating 70s kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And I went to great lengths to get that kind of tone as a producer.
Yeah.
The guitar sounds of Boston, the drum sounds, even recording some of the drums in mono. You know, doubling up certain things, certain, reverb effects, mic positioning, that kind of whatever. The drummer, Chris Redden from Papa Chubby, Christopher Alexander from Samantha Fish. So it was a lockdown for like 2 or 3 weeks, and stuff just started pouring out of me. And it was blues bass, jam bass, it was everything. It was like mutt rock. It was all of it. Cool. And it just came pouring out. My next album may be blues. I'm working with Derek St. Holmes. He's talking about that. But, and it's being well received, and we're touring that right now all over the country, yeah. I just got back from a week, and now we're going out again.
Cool.
But thank you for asking.
Well, I heard that you're also. Oh yeah, don't touch it.
Nah, but just stop. No, don't get that. Start that all over the air. You can. We're buddies. I think they see that. Yeah.
You're playing with doing some stuff with Warren Haynes.
Warren's a good friend. I did the Exodus thing in Jamaica with Sonny. And matter of fact, his keyboard player Danny Lewis is on this album.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm playing with him.
Are you
on the East
are you
Coast.
actually jamming with him on stage, or are you guys just?
Oh yeah. No. Yeah, I'm playing with Government Mule, and then G Love.
Oh, cool.
So that'll be great. And then I'm doing some stuff with Derek St. Holmes. I'm producing a lot of records. I just produced Joe Louis' Walker's record.
Oh wow.
That got nominated for Grammy. I got the certificate. So things are good.
Things are good.
Still miss Johnny though.
Wait, you've had a chance to walk around the show, right?
I love the NAMM shows.
Have you seen anything of interest? Any toys that you thought, oh, I'd like to take that home with me?
I saw some great medium guitar picks. Hey, you need them.
You need them.
You know that you should do an article on medium guitar picks.
I have to tell you,
I use
one
heavies.
of the best, potentially stupid, boring discussions I've ever had, but ended up having such a good time at NAMM show is I went out with the guys from Dunlop.
Oh, I love those, Jim. Yeah.
And we just talked about picks. Like everybody makes fun of guitar players for like talking about what kind of picks they use.
You know,
it's really one of the most essential things.
When I first read the articles, like you did, when I first studied those artists, and they're talking about, oh, this string gauge is driving me nuts, and I use this and this pick, I was like, what does it matter? It's a pick. It's a string. But the difference. Yeah. Johnny couldn't play a Fender Stratocaster. He said, I sound like I'm 9 years old because the string spacing was like the Grand Canyon. He couldn't thumb pick. Yeah. He had to use, that's why he used a laser guitar. So later on, as you develop as an artist and you're trying to do certain passages or runs or string skipping or whatever, if you don't have the right gear,
well, I find
that's why pedals and all this stuff, you try this stuff out. Sometimes you go straight to a music store, you play it, you buy it. A NAMM show, you play it, you move on, you check it all out. I like this atmosphere.
I find that picks and strings are actually two of the most essential things in creating your personal tone.
Yeah, because
I am a total nerd about that. When people used to laugh
imagine if there were no strings or picks.
We wouldn't have a NAMM show.
We wouldn't have a magazine.
We wouldn't have a magazine. Don't touch me.
So that little thing is so important. Absolutely, it is. And the thickness, and technically, for funk, for rock, for metal, for blues, yes, absolutely. Playing with Steve Kahn, extra heavy. Why? Because Wes Montgomery, Benson, that kind of stuff. You need it for sweeping. How many people, and I'll say out there, don't use an extra thin pick if you're sweeping. You're doing all the right stuff and you can't figure it out. You gotta use, there's a thing to the angle, but also the style of plectrum.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay, well, anyways,
thanks, buddy.
Paul,
Always a pleasure.
It's good seeing you.
Again, thanks
Thanks
from
for
the bottom
stopping
of my
by.
heart.
Are you going to be here the rest of the week?
No, I'm heading out tomorrow to go play with Warren, and like I said, and then I go back on tour to Midwest and Florida. PaulNelsonGuitar.com if anybody's interested, and there we go.
Guitar. And this record, Badass Generation, Paul Nelson.
Hey, buddy.
Okay, we'll see you.
See ya.
Well, I guess we're signing off from the Nashville NAMM. I hope you enjoyed our interviews today, and come back tomorrow.